Hey Liliana, alright, so here is your karmic reading, the spread. So what we're looking at here is one row, second row, third row kind of thing. Up here is a karmic lesson that is part of your current life. In the middle we have a karmic relationship that came through that is part of your current life. However, it could have passed, it could be now, it could be in the future. And down here is a past life karmic lesson that I feel like is already learned, and this feels more like an echo that would be happening in your current life, that if you are able to identify it, you can let it go because it's just an echo, and that happens sometimes. Okay, so keep in mind that to make connections, make connections and resonate with what you can, but if you can't connect right now with something that's coming through, just tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, because a lot of times connections are made in the following days, weeks, months, year later that you might not be making in the moment here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Also, so what's going to happen is I'm just relaying images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to connect however you can based off of what comes through here and how it connects to your current life, and I'll try to help however I can. All right. So you might want to grab a notebook and pen, because a lot of stuff tends to come out here. And let's see, anything else? Nope. All right, let's go ahead and begin. So where we're going to start is with row one. So what we have here is a karmic lesson. This is the lesson itself, is the love others card. This is a love others lesson. This is the feeling card associated with it, which is gratitude or grateful. And this here is kind of the advice given, we can say, in order to make learning this lesson that much easier, as in helping you identify how to identify it basically, and when to identify it, and to make sure that you do, so that you can do whatever you need to do in order to be aware of it, acknowledge it, and move through it that much quicker, if that makes sense. This is not about a race, so this goes at your own pace. And that's important too. So you're not pushing yourself, just that you're aware. All right. So this love others card, this does not pertain to actually loving others. Like, it's not that your lesson in this life is to love others to the extent of loving them beyond, like, above your own means or prioritizing others. It's not that. This feels like it's coming up in that it's like a message of be aware when you are prioritizing others above you. And it feels like it can be in the simplest things, like, let's say you have a meal and you give whoever you're with the best piece of the meal. That's nice and that's sweet and kind and loving, yeah. But it's also about making sure that you take the best piece at least half the time. That kind of, like, make sure that you are giving to yourself to make sure that you are covering all of your needs and most of your wants before you attend to others. And I'm not saying if you have kids to, like, ignore your kids' needs and wants, of course. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when it comes to peers or even siblings, it could be the kind of thing where if you were born, let's say, as the oldest of siblings, oftentimes we look after them as older siblings. And or it could be, I know, the opposite, where there's an ego trip with the older siblings, but oftentimes we get like an older sibling that is protective over the younger sibling. Understanding that that protectiveness does come in as kind of like an instinct, or even if someone is taught that way. But this is also, you have to understand your life journey, your solo life journey. Even though there are people, like, yes, we would not be in this life without other people, and our connections are part of our life. Yes, yes, yes. But we're getting down to the very bare minimum of what you should recognize as your solo life journey. This is your life with your purpose, your lessons, all this stuff. And it's important that you're not deprioritizing yourself, because when you prioritize others, oftentimes it's almost like enabling them not to learn their lessons, because sometimes prioritizing others is also, it also looks like taking responsibility for others, or taking the responsibility off others when they need to learn the lesson of having that responsibility. So this could be in the form of, like, if you're in a relationship and they mess up and you self-blame rather than hold them accountable, because it's easier, or because you're used to it, or because of whatever, we do with our mind that makes us do that in relationships. But really, by not holding someone accountable, which is loving yourself, because you're expressing yourself authentically and feeling your feelings, therefore holding someone accountable, you're also giving them the lesson that they signed up for. Whether they learn it or not is none of your business, really. It's just that what your business is to tend to you and not to take someone else's lesson by taking responsibility, which feels like you're doing someone a favor often. So if you connect with this in any way, this is part of a lesson you're meant to learn. If you're not connecting now, tuck in the back of your mind for a later time. It could be that this comes so naturally to you at times that you're not aware of it. So oftentimes we see later on where you have to actually be in a situation where this is happening after a reading, to be like, oh, that's what she's talking about, like that kind of thing. So basically, it's kind of in a nutshell, I want to say for this card is, be aware of when you feel like you are doing someone a favor, and just pause and assess it and see the motivation behind it. You know what I mean? Like, is the motivation to alleviate their struggle or alleviate a burden for them? If that's the case, this would be, even though it might feel selfish to hold back and let them have their burden, this is what we're talking about. It's about learning to focus on you and focus on your needs and wants, and allowing other people to learn the lesson of what it is to have a burden, to work through a burden, to work through their responsibility, that kind of thing, which can be very hard, especially if you're like a mom and, you know, the kid, you can easily take their responsibility, but that kid needs to learn the lesson of whatever that responsibility or having it or whatever burden it brings has. Obviously not if it's going to hurt them, like on a real level, you know what I mean? But like, we're talking just responsibility, things like that. So just keep that in mind and keep making connections to this however you can with the loving others card, because really this card for you is more about loving yourself and deprioritizing doing for others. Even though I know that sounds selfish, it's not. Because it's not saying don't help anyone. It's not like that. It's just be aware of when it's happening so that you can quickly assess the motivation behind it. And if you feel like that motivation, in your gut, if you feel like that motivation is to alleviate a burden, try to just hold back. And it may be very hard to see someone struggle. And again, this is not if you can like help easily and it doesn't burden you, but it's about taking someone's burden so that it actually does burden you. And you may be so used to it that you might feel like it's not a problem, it's easy for you, but it's not about that. It's about, is alleviating someone's burden or struggle going to add to your burden or struggle? And if the answer is yes, then that is your cue to just pull your focus back to you and allow them to learn the lesson of the struggle, of the burden, of the this, of the that kind of thing, okay? So again, just however you connect, and if you don't connect, tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time. We're going to go and move to this card here. So gratitude. Now, a thing is, a lot of people, what this feels like is, it's easy to get roped into helping others when the other person is so grateful and verbally grateful, even maybe giving gifts afterwards for your help. This is not about helping someone move, you know, helping a friend move. It's not like that. This is about taking on the responsibility of doing tasks for people, or making it so someone doesn't have to go through an emotional struggle. Because that emotional struggles are really the reason why we're here, in the way of our souls wanting to experience things in order to expand. So the emotional struggles, it's good to have a shoulder to cry. Be a shoulder, be a listener, be a friend, but don't remove that emotional struggle from people in the case that you might find that you do that. Because it's like you can still be there for people without removing the struggle. I don't know how to articulate that, but I feel like if you're able to connect with this, you'll know what I mean, and you'll definitely know when it happens. But don't be roped in or pulled in or enticed or obligated by someone's, I want to say, when I say gratitude, it would be, what this feels like is they're showing me someone expressing themselves so greatly in so much gratitude that they know that if they express themselves like this, you can't help but help them. And not just you, but anyone. It's almost like, I hate to say this, but it's almost like using their expression of gratitude to get people to help them. It's like a crying wolf kind of thing, but it's not exactly crying wolf. Does this make sense? I hope this is making sense. It's not the kind of thing, because I want to say, like, someone showing gratitude is beautiful and that's wonderful, but there's a way that some people know how to harness the gratitude, and they kind of use it out of survival mode, so to speak, in order to get other people to do what they want, where it's almost like impossible to say no, because it's like in their gratitude, in expressing their gratitude, they've like verbalized or assumed that you'll do whatever they are asking or whatever they are saying they need done. But this is really hard, and this is where you need to learn to put up boundaries and say, no, I'm busy. Nope, I can't do that for you. No, I have other things I need to do. Like, have these excuses in your back pocket ready to go, because it feels like this is a pivotal thing for you and whoever does this. If someone's coming to mind that you feel would do this kind of thing, that's the person we're talking about, and that's your intuition telling you right now that that's the person you're going to need to learn to put boundaries up for. But it doesn't mean cutting them out of your life for good. It could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means boundaries as in like self-respect, self-worth, and self-value, and saying, no, I'm sorry, that is not my place, or this is not my responsibility, or just simply, no, I can't, I'm busy. That kind of thing. So however you connect with this, it's really interesting, because I've never had the gratitude or the grateful card come up that feels like opposite of what the card is about. So this is about like using the form of gratitude to get something done for them, if that makes sense. Which is like, so far, these are two cards where when they come up here, they're both meaning something opposite, which is really interesting. And connect with that if you can in some way, where something that looks at face value to mean one thing is something else. And almost like, don't be surprised if that happens. If anything, this might be coming up so that you're prepared, so you can be aware of it when it's happening, so you know the course of action to take in the moment, and you don't get, like, I want to say, blindsided, if that makes sense. Not that anything bad's gonna happen. These are just like normal, this feels like normal typical daily interactions, quite frankly. So it's not like this big bad scenario or anything like that. But yes, so then the advice card here, this is the hard work card, and what this feels like is it's coming up because it feels like it means for you to do these things, and for you to put up the boundaries in this way, or recognize or be aware of, and you know, almost like refuse to help when you feel like they can do it themselves, kind of thing. This might feel like a lot of work for you, a lot of emotional and mental work for you, because again, you may be used to just doing this out of just like a natural obligation that you might have been raised to do. But this would be like, if you do these things and you put up the boundaries, it's not going to be as hard as you think. The first time might be. It might even give you a physical reaction. Maybe you don't like confrontation, right? Like that kind of thing. Or maybe you don't like saying no, and it might physically affect you. You know how people like just can get physically like shaken up about doing something completely out of the norm or something like that. But once you do it the first time, it's going to be easier, and you're going to feel very good about yourself. And this is also going to help you care less about what people think of you, seeing that if people judge you for taking care of you first, then you're going to see their true colors, and you're not going to care anymore. Because why should someone that cares about you judge you for you caring about you, when usually they are always caring about them? So look for the people who prioritize themselves usually, and then get mad at you when you want to prioritize yourself, or get pissy or judge you. That's what we're looking for here. And that is a cue for you that this is the person that I need boundaries with. So connect however you can, and it could be that you know this. It could be that you are doing really well right now putting up boundaries, or you're in the midst of learning to put up boundaries. And if that's the case, then just take this as validation to continue to do that. Okay? So keep making connections with this row however you can, but this is a lesson, a karmic lesson that you are learning. And it feels like it is from another time when you not just didn't put up boundaries, but you couldn't, based on who you were at the time, given the wherever you were in the world, that you just simply couldn't. And here you're in a timeline when you have the ability and the freedom to do that, okay? So that's why this is coming up now. So keep making connections, and we're going to go to this relationship, karmic relationship next. All right, so for the relationship, we have the soulmate card. Now, the soulmate card is not always romantic, nor is it always one person, like we only have one soulmate our whole life. No, so with the soulmate card, you can have many soulmates because soulmates are meant to come in your life. Both of you have made a contract to have lessons learned from each other, and these lessons can be beautiful and lovely and loving, or these lessons can be brutal and hard and sad. But it's all about learning the lessons, and usually for an emotional range or emotional scale to become more self-aware, that kind of thing. So this soulmate card represents that, and I'm getting some, we're going to get more info as we talk. So the feeling card associated with the soulmate card, and this is for your current life, is approving and disapproving, and the feeling coming through with this would be a kind of like a back and forth, or like almost like a confusing kind of feeling. Well, more than anything, I want to say it's more of like an uncertain kind of feeling. So how I'm talking about this card is the energy of a person, the energy they're giving you. And again, this could be in the past, now, or later, but we're looking for an energy of someone who is kind of throwing you off a bit. And the more I'm talking, the more it's almost like I want to say it feels like it could be a romantic or a partnership kind of thing. But it can also be partnership as in there's chemistry. Okay. So it's almost like I want to say this person you will feel chemistry with, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will link into romantic chemistry, but definitely chemistry. And almost like the idea of the chemistry is what's confusing, where you might be used to feeling chemistry and it meaning something, or meaning it has to go somewhere or in a certain direction, but also something about it that is not moving in that direction. And so kind of sitting in a state of uncertainty of how to make yourself, or how to make it feel like the partnership is moving in a direction if it can't go in the usual direction. Okay, so the scenario that I feel like this is, it's kind of like a scenario, like let's take the scenario of, sorry, I'm repeating myself, you and a person, and let's say you're married or the person's married, and you and this person have chemistry, and usually this kind of chemistry, based on your past experiences, would be the kind where you would hook up or start dating or courtship or whatever. That would be more romantic based. So it would feel like chemistry in that way, but yet either you're with someone or they're with someone, so that's kind of off the table. But you don't want to disengage from the energy altogether, so what do you do with it? So in this scenario, we get a lot of people who would have an affair, and that's, no judgment here, but that's the kind of thing that would happen from this. But if you or this, if the affair, if that's off the table due to, moral, ethical, or whatever consequences you fear from coming from it, you still want the energy in your life. But what do I do with it? I don't know what to do, because usually it would go down this path usually, but that's off the table now. So what do I do with it? And this is where the karmic tie comes in. This is where the karma comes in, is the confusion and uncertainty. And there are paths you can take from this. One, it could be to transmute the chemistry, to make it, to, mentally, emotionally transmute it so that you see it as a different kind of chemistry that leads down a different path, like business partners, like turning someone into a sibling energy. So it's like learning how to transmute the romantic into a more loving, family-based kind of energy, where you start to view the person through a perspective of non-romantic but close to you, friend, but like you can make it even more like family, like that kind of thing. Or you can be like, this isn't gonna like I can't do, like kind of like I don't know what to do with this energy, so I'm just gonna cut it. Even though I want this energy in my life, we're gonna go our separate ways for now, and if it's meant to be, we will find each other at the right time and see if the chemistry is still there later. So this also feels like a karmic lesson between you that you came in to learn patience from, self-patience, self-understanding, trust in the timing of things, and trust that everything is happening for a reason and unraveling at the rate and for the reason and unraveling in the way that it's meant to. Having trust in that without pushing something or forcing something or wanting or yearning for something that just doesn't feel like intuitively is correct for you at the time, even though it might be something your ego really wants. So it feels like this is someone that is in your life, coming in your life, was in your life, or is in your life, that will really put your ego to the test with your intuition. It'll be about, I want this because I want it. I want this because, you know, I deserve it, like that kind of thing. And also, I want this because this is all I've ever known, and I don't know what else to do about it. That's all ego-based. Versus the intuition that's like, I want this, let me just sit with it. Let me sit with the uncomfortability and trust that things will unravel. I want this, but I feel like it's not the correct moment for action, or what do I do with this? Like, I want the, almost like I want to say, there's action and there's being. And the action is, it's like the action of doing it is the ego part, and then so the being part is almost like being in prayer or meditation, where you are trusting to just sit with it, and that an answer will come to you, or something will be coming up in a way that will either refocus you or make you feel better. It just might take more time than what you can do with the ego-based action, if that makes sense. So again, connect however you can with this. It doesn't have to be romantic. Like, it doesn't have to be where the chemistry is immediately romantic. It could be that there's chemistry, and you don't know what to do with it because it's not your usual type of person that you would have this kind of chemistry feeling with. And that might stump you, and that might make you feel uncertain or uncomfortable. So really, this is a contract for you, and probably the other person too, but definitely you, to learn to sit with uncomfortability without needing to take action based on an egotistical decision of wanting now and knowing no other way. This is like almost like someone coming into your life, or having been or is, where it's forcing you to expand your self-awareness in such a way that you're going to have to dabble into new thoughts and emotions of how to deal with what you're feeling, because the outlet is not there in the usual way for this kind of feeling or chemistry. This would be a contract for you to learn to choose a different outlet or create a different path or outlet than you're used to based on your past experiences. And that's really hard. It's hard. But the feeling, the lesson involved in this is the experience card, which means often with this kind of thing, it's about expanding your consciousness and understanding just how, like, I want to say, how unlimited you are. Where you might feel like this kind of experience only has limited options of what you can do, based on past experiences of how you felt and behaved and went through. But the experience card is showing you it's unlimited. You just have to sit back and open your mind and trust that certain things will be revealed to you to help you make certain choices you never had to make before, by certain thoughts and emotions that will come into your mind and being, and to pay attention to them. And oftentimes these emotions or thoughts will be unlike any you've felt or thought. They may even go against what you're used to thinking or feeling, but they will innately reveal a path that you can take that is, it feels, would be foreign to you. But that means that that's expanding your consciousness. And there is always rewards when you take risks like this. It just might not be immediate gratification, okay? So sit with that. And then this is another feeling card I laid down with this for this, and it's the distant and removed card. And I feel like that's kind of where we're aiming, is to remove yourself from going down a path that you would normally take with someone based on the feelings that you feel and the chemistry or whatever it might be and the situation. What you might feel is either normal, or what you might feel is like inevitable, or what you might feel is repeating from the past. And this card, the removed card, is probably based on, every path you take is your path. Every choice and decision you make puts you on a right path for some reason, but the most fulfilling and best path in this case feels like it would be if you removed yourself from that repeated pattern and opened up and trusted another path to reveal itself to you, and to take baby steps down that path to see how you feel about it, what happens, if you can continue. And this is expanding yourself. It's basically, if you're used to going down one road, well, you're going to be introduced to a whole nother road, and it might be scary because you've never been down it, but it leads to a whole new land, a whole new adventure, right? So just sit with this and connect how you can. It's not as painful as it sounds. It can be an adventure if you allow your perspective to see it that way, which is also very expansive. Try to, when you're feeling icky, try to detach from reacting to the icky and observe it and understand this is me expanding by sitting through uncomfortable feelings that will ultimately reveal the answers to my next step. And it sounds and feels probably counterintuitive, but this is most often how it works, and most often getting rewards from this kind of scary, fear-based movement, getting away, like moving in a way that is new despite the fear of not knowing where it's going, that kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. So keep making connections where you can with this relationship karmic thing, understanding that the person that this is with, they're not to blame. And if you feel yourself wanting to blame them, that's when you really got to look at yourself and see what that is mirroring within yourself, because it really all comes back down to you. Even if they do bad behavior, whatever, it doesn't mean you have to forgive them for bad behavior if there is any, but it does mean when you blame them, you're still attaching to them. And that's a form of attaching a cord or attachment, and you don't want to go there any more than you might already feel attached, if that makes sense. So reel it back in. Anyway, keep making connections where you can here, and we're going to go to this last part here. Now this was the past life that I just wanted to dip into and peek into, and it has to do, it may have to do with this stuff, but maybe not. Just, again, make connections where you can. So this card is the Wanderer card. It's what was done with the majority of that lifetime, which feels mobile, movement, traveling, and it feels like it's because there was either no home base or a deep desire to move away from the home base because there's no home there anyway, emotionally at least. Almost like the feeling of like abuse at home, so I'm not going back there, I'm leaving, like I'm gonna find my way. This here is just rolling right along feeling card. It's a peaceful card. Once you leave and once you roam, once you take the step down that unknown territory, which we just talked about here actually, so it might be connected, but once you start moving in that direction, peace, in the flow, more aligned than ever. And this here is actually the self-love card. Yay! So this is really cool because we're finishing a cycle. It feels like we're cycling. This is the love others card, back to the self-love card. So this is so cool. I love when this happens. So this is the lesson card, and the lesson is this life became the most beautiful life here because you took steps to go down a road where everyone said, don't go, stay at home. And it feels like it's because, like, based on the time and where you are, it's like, yeah, usually someone would stay at home. It feels like it's even the home is like comfortable. It's not like poverty or anything, it's comfortable, but it feels like you're surrounded by like just emotional, it's an emotionality that feels like it gave you disgust. almost like I want to say that you witnessed perhaps the person of the house, whether it's your parent or whoever, beating a servant or something like that is what it feels like, where you were constantly witnessing physical abuse to others and emotional abuse, so that it emotionally was abusive to you because it went against what your heart and soul was about, which it feels like your heart and soul here is gentle and loving and compassionate, and you were just around a bunch of narcissistic abusers. Even if they didn't physically abuse you, their abuse towards others was abusive to you and innately in itself. So you decided to leave. And it's almost like you went under the guise of saying, oh, I'm going to travel for my education, like to make it look like it was something that would be good for the family. And they were like, you don't need to do that. Don't do that. You know, we have room for you at the, you know, family business, whatever it is. And you're like, no, 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 believe me, this will be better. And it's almost like you just kind of nonchalantly packed up and you just left. You're like, this is good for me. It'll be good for everyone. And you never came back, ever. You never came back. It feels like you used your family name, knowledge, and whatever funds that you had to go ahead and create something for yourself that kept you going wherever you were. This feels almost Russian. So any connection you might even have to like Russian history, culture, music, if you see photos of Russia, like the main cities, the beauty, the architecture, that kind of thing, if you've ever been pulled there or felt a connection, there's that little connection here that you can make, but that's what it feels like here. And it feels like he roams like south into like China and then through just like Tibet, like that kind of thing, just roaming and gathering wisdom and experiences. And this could be connecting with you in the way where it might be a call for you to travel in case you were considering it or felt the urge or pull to travel somewhere for a time, or inevitably even move, whatever it might be. If that's been on your mind, this would be a call for you to trust your instincts and understand that the experiences you may gather in your travels will be unequivocal to what you experience if you stay at home. But this is only if you feel a pull to travel, if your intuition is saying go, 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 you know, that kind of thing. So, and then the self-love card, of course, like this was an act of self-love, removing himself from abusive people, even though they were family and even though they loved him. And they actually treated him respectfully. It's just the emotional abuse came from him witnessing their behavior towards others. So it's hard because sometimes these people, we were talking about boundaries and stuff up here, I think, the people that we need to put up boundaries to sometimes love us so much, but their emotions and their energy can be so stagnant and limiting that it halts our growth and doesn't allow us to fulfill our purpose here. So it's for us to be aware of that and recognize when that is happening, and we sometimes have to lovingly say goodbye and lovingly go our way and follow our path in that way. So that is an act of self-love. Yes. So anyway, keep making connections where you can with this. And anyway, there's your karmic reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections. Hopefully it was helpful in some way. And thanks for letting me read you.